good? Hello, everyone. My name is Nathan, or ELEMENTofFROST. Welcome back to the last episode review video for The Walking Dead Season 5. That's right, guys. The last one until October. Obviously, when they return with Season 6. So, to get into things, obviously, these reviews do contain spoilers. I mean, I've said this all along. They do. It's pretty obvious. How do you review a show without spoiling? But nonetheless, the 90-minute season finale of The Walking Dead Season 5, Episode 16, entitled Conquer, aired last night, March 29th. And guys, it was brilliant. That's all I can really say. Review's over. I'm joking. But nonetheless, we are going to get into things, okay? We're going to go through it briefly, alright? And then we're going to get into more detail. So, this is basically what happened. You know, there was a lot of confrontation between Rick and his group, actually, and between, obviously, Deanna's group as well. There was a lot of scenes, very, very brilliant scenes, with Daryl and Aaron, obviously, outside the walls doing their scouting thing. By the end of the episode, honestly, by the end of the episode, all I can say is finally. Yeah, finally, Deanna gets it. She does. I think she finally does. She gets it now, and we'll get into why she's starting to get it, or why she does get it now. But, to start the episode off, guys, Morgan. That's right, Morgan, the guy from Season 1. He started the entire series off with Rick. Season 1, Episode 1, Morgan, the guy who literally had his son beat Rick in the face with a shovel. Morgan is back. You know, he's back. He made another appearance in Season 3, obviously, and he's back now in Season 5. We've seen him in a few episodes so far in Season 5, including the season finale, the mid-season finale, and also the season premiere, or at least I think it was the season premiere. Actually, I don't think it was. I don't believe it was. But, nonetheless, no, I believe actually it was Episode 2 or 3 when we actually seen Morgan for the first time, or it might have been the end of Episode 1. I don't know. Nonetheless, I can't remember every detail. But getting into things, Morgan is alive. Morgan is here. He starts off the episode getting ambushed in the woods. You know, he's in the woods. He's by himself. He's looking to make himself, I think, a cup of hot cocoa or something like that. Morgan is ambushed, and he's held at gunpoint with a man with a W scarred on his forehead. Okay? So, first sign of the wolves that we've seen in human form, not zombie form. Obviously, we've seen plenty of walkers with W's on their heads. We didn't really know what it meant. We had some speculation. I actually correctly predicted it on this week's episode prediction video, which, as you guys may or may not know, I actually do prediction videos as well on Thursdays before the episode airs. So if you guys are willing to check those out, obviously there's a playlist. You know, go check them out. You want to see my predictions, see if I was right, everything like that. And yeah, so basically I predicted that we were going to start to see the wolves in this episode, and I was 100% correct. So a guy ambushes Morgan, holds him at gunpoint. He basically tells Morgan a backstory, sort of the wolves. You know, that's basically what he does. I think he's trying to cope with it himself as well. But he tells Morgan a backstory, saying that early tribes believed the first people were wolves transformed into men. And he said everything gets a return. And he's basically vowing to kill Morgan and take all of his shit. Take all of his possessions. Morgan's about to take a drink of his hot cocoa, and he basically says, no, you're going to put that down, because I'm going to take that. And I'm going to take everything you have, and I'm also going to take you. But I'm not going to take you alive. But anyways, it was very, very subtle, and just to get down to things, there was actually a second attacker in the woods behind Morgan. The guy at gunpoint, the guy holding Morgan at gunpoint was kind of distracting him, and the guy was going to get the jump on him with a machete. Morgan gets out of the way, basically, and he's actually able to fight them off with a stick. They said this on Talking Dead perfectly last night. Also, in an interview with Norman Reedus, basically Norman Reedus said that Morgan looked like one of the Ninja Turtles. You know, he was holding the stick, and he was just being so badass about it. He fought them off and everything like that. So moving on now, Rick wakes up in one of Alexandria's abandoned houses to find a Michonne watching over him. Glenn, Carol, and Abraham stop by to report that Deanna is holding a meeting at night to discuss the possible exile of Rick. Rick outlines basically a plan to take Deanna. He admits to everybody there that, you know, he screwed up, but now they've got to try to fix it. You know, they've got to do whatever they have to do in order to get Rick to stay there. Whether that means kill everybody and take the place for their own, or whether that means just plain out convince them otherwise. Point is, Rick has led them all the way around the world, basically. You know, he's kept them alive. And he needs a place there, and his son and his daughter needs a place there. Obviously, if Rick was exiled, his son and his daughter would most likely be going with them. But nonetheless, he outlines a plan basically to take Deanna, Reg, and Spencer hostage if things go south. Michonne and Glenn are hesitant and advocate more of a peaceful resolution. Rick definitely agrees, but he's just saying that this is just in case, basically. Now, whether or not that actually is the case, like whether or not he actually does agree, or whether or not he wants to actually take them hostage, well, I guess we'll find out. But meanwhile, Maggie is off trying to persuade, really, Deanna to not banish Rick from the group. She basically says, you know, if this meeting is about banishing Rick, if it's about exiling him, it's not going to work. And this is actually one of the sneak peeks that we've seen on the AMC.com website or the AMC YouTube channel. If you guys see my episode prediction video, I talked briefly about it. But basically, it was just Maggie talking to Deanna, discussing whether or not the meeting was about an exile. Deanna kind of said that it pretty much was. And Maggie is doing everything in her power to convince Deanna otherwise, that Rick knows what he's doing. You know, he's seen so much. That's why he's acting like this. He's lost so many people. And she's basically just trying to sum it up in a way to Deanna that she has to understand that he's gone through a lot, you know? He's been on the outside of those walls, keeping everybody together. That's what he's been worrying about. And he's not used to this new life yet. So outside the walls now, Sasha basically wheels a flatbed, you know, sort of trailer, if you will, full of dead walkers into a pit, and then I don't know, this is fucking weird. It really is. Sasha is on the cuckoo train, basically, okay? She wheels this flatbed of dead walkers into a pit, and then she lays down on top of the corpses. She's literally just laying there staring up at the sky, and it's just really, really weird. So anyways, Daryl and Aaron now, cut to Daryl and Aaron, they're actually tracking a man in a red poncho through the woods. We'll see more of the red poncho later, but it's not so good news for the man in the red poncho. It really isn't. It kind of sucks, but nonetheless, they're tracking this guy in the red poncho. Aaron shares with Daryl his guilt over the 3 men whom Deanna banished from Alexandria, men that he actually originally recruited. Aaron basically says that, you know, I thought they'd work out. I can't make that kind of mistake again. You know, I brought them in, and I had to be the one to basically escort them off the premises. Back in Alexandria now, Carol wakes up Rick and gives him a gun to replace the one that was confiscated, obviously after his outburst in the street. So Carol obviously took 3 guns, right? One was supposed to be for her, one for Rick, and one for Daryl. But remember that Daryl did not take one. He did not. He didn't think it was necessary, so he did not take one. So Carol kept 2. And she basically replaced Rick's gun that, like I said, was confiscated during his outburst at the end of Season 5, Episode 15, entitled Drive. So, yeah, she replaced his gun. Rick basically says that he's tired of lying lying to the group. Carol basically says, you don't want to take this place and you don't want to lie. And she says very, very, sort of creepily, you know, it sort of is, like, she says, oh, sunshine, you don't get both. Obviously, that was meant to be a joke, but Coming from Carol at this point, it's very, very, very scary, if you will. Just saying the word sunshine, you know, it's kind of an overstatement at this point. She's definitely scary. She's a scary character. At the house now, Maggie is telling Glenn that she's going to drum up support for Rick in advance of the meeting. Nicholas is actually watching Maggie and Glenn from afar, and then he climbs over the wall after Maggie leaves. So Glenn sees Nicholas climbing over a wall, and obviously, naturally, he goes after him. He pursues him. Nicholas basically is luring Glenn into the woods, and then out of nowhere, he actually led him to the place where the walker that they were originally stringing up for killing, obviously some of their own, went out on a run. He leads him to that place again. That's where Tara got attacked. And he shoots Glenn in the shoulder. Out of nowhere. The shot just came out of nowhere. He falls down the hill. Glenn runs off before Nicholas can find him. Gabriel now, I still don't know what to think of Gabriel. He's walking outside the main gate, completely unarmed. Basically, he said that he wanted to go for a walk. Spencer, which is the guard, offers him a gun, and Gabriel insists that the word of God is the only protection I need. Yeah. Okay. God and a rock, or a rope, if you will, because that's what he actually used. Back at home now, Rick is actually warning Carl that he might have to threaten or even kill someone at the meeting. Carl basically tells Rick, you don't have to do that. I don't think you have to do that. Rick basically insists that it might be a possibility. He's not going to say that he's going to go in there and just do it. It might be a possibility if he can't get them to, listen. Basically, Carl insists that Rick speak to the townspeople instead of hurting them. He basically says they need us, and they'll die without us. You got to do it for them. Really, that's what he's trying to accomplish when talking to Rick, when talking to his dad. And Rick basically agrees with him, but says, I don't know if they're willing to listen. I don't know if they're ready. And that's where the scene ends. So, having lost the trail of the men now, or the man in the red poncho, basically Daryl and Aaron now come across a food distribution warehouse. This is where things get a little down and dirty and very, very, very cool, guys. It is so, so cool. They come across a food distribution warehouse. Like I said, Darren wants to... Darren? That's a combination right there, isn't it? Daryl and Aaron. Daryl wants to keep searching for for the man in the red poncho, but Aaron convinces that they have to scavenge this food. This food distribution warehouse has to be done before someone else gets to it. Because no matter what, if we keep searching for people, yeah, sure, it's good. You're going to get no more people. And I totally agree with Aaron on this point. You're going to get more people, yeah. But when you bring them back to that community, the more people they are, the more food you need. And Daryl basically realizes that, shit, you're totally right. There's no good in bringing people back if we don't have enough food to feed them all. So, Daryl opens a shipping truck. They clear out all the walkers behind the fence. They kind of lead them over to the fence. They clear out the walkers. Daryl goes around to a shipping truck, and he basically... They're talking for a while. Aaron picks up a license plate, and basically, Daryl, like I said, he opens one of the trucks, and it actually triggers a trap pulley system that opens the doors on all of the surrounding trucks. Which is all filled with, not food, guys, but walkers. Tons and tons of walkers. I'm talking maybe 100. In all honesty, there's probably 100. If not 100, there's definitely, I'd say close to 70. Yeah. So anyway, all these trucks are filled with walkers. They all come piling out. Obviously, this means that you need to find safety. You need to find shelter really, really fast. So this part was really, really agonizing because you didn't know what was going to happen. Anybody could get bit at the wrong moment. And anyways, they basically take refuge in a nearby car, literally in the middle of the parking lot. Too good to be true, in all honesty. So they're going underneath the trucks trying to get away from the walkers. One of the coolest kills that we actually seen in The Walking Dead so far has just made an appearance. It was a very, very cool, very epic. It was basically Daryl with a giant chain, and he whips the chain at 3 walkers' heads at the same time, and just doop, 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 heads all fall off. Heads all get cut in half by the chain. It was so, so cool. I recommend you guys just go check out that scene again. It was very, very nice to see. It was very, very cool. It really was. One of the best kills that we've seen in a while. But nonetheless, after that, like I said, they crawl underneath the food trucks and everything like that to try to get away from walkers. They're taking out a few with machetes and knives, and they actually, like I said, take refuge in a nearby car, literally in the middle of the parking lot, like it was literally set there for that particular reason, obviously, to get them inside the car, to get them safe for when people come around. So, they're inside the car, and Aaron finds a note saying, trap, bad people coming, don't stay. So this trap was obviously set up by some pretty badass people. Really, really, really bad. Basically, the wolves, if you will. It actually gets revealed later in the episode that it is the wolves, but nonetheless, yeah, it's a trap. So people want food. You know, they go in there, they try to get food, they set off the traps. Walkers go out, surround them, they get into the car because the car is safe. But then the walkers are all surrounding the car, blocking the doors, everything like that. They can't get out, which means they're free for the taking for people when they come around to check the traps. Hence the wolves. Obviously, you know, the wolves are bad people. They've marked W's on people's foreheads, and then they've killed them. They strap them up to a tree, let a walker eat them. Very, very brutal. Slit their throats, everything like that. Very, very brutal. The wolves are very, very brutal. They really are. And that's their trap. That's their little booby trap, if you will. So anyways, Carol visits Pete now, which I said before on The Talking Dead. This was also a sneak peek, exclusive to The Talking Dead. You couldn't see this on YouTube or anything like that, but it was exclusive sneak peek to The Talking Dead. Carol basically goes to Pete's house, who actually has been separated from Jesse and is now living in a different house. Under the guise of bringing him food, she orders him to perform his duties as Tara's doctor. And she basically threatens the shit out of him. You know, she really does. He didn't really seem all that scared last episode when he and Rick went one-on-one. But he's shitting his pants. He's pissing his pants when Carol enters this room. He basically says, you know, what are you doing here? Get out. Carol holds a knife up to his throat, basically says, you know, I could kill you right now, but I'm not going to. If I did kill you, people wouldn't believe I killed you because I didn't like you. People would believe that I killed you because you tried to hurt me. At the end, she basically says, you know, if you play your cards right, you're lucky to be here. If you play your cards right, maybe you don't have to die. She leaves him the dish of casserole, I believe is what it was. Or lasagna, or, you know, something, whatever. She basically, as she's exiting the house, she's basically saying, she basically looks back at him and says, you know, after you're done, I want my dish back and I want it to be clean. Just as a way to say, haha, fuck you, basically, is what I took at it. Pete shouts after Carol leaves. He basically shouts, top of his lungs, you know, this isn't my house, and he drops the dish on the ground. He basically, that's what he does. He just drops the dish on the ground. He just screams that this isn't my house, which obviously it isn't, but that's where you're staying from now on. Now Rick is now checking in on Jesse at her house and says that, you know, he's basically not sorry for what he did. You know, he wanted to spear Pete through the window. He wanted to teach Pete a lesson. He wanted to teach him that, you know, you can't hit your wife. That's not right. It really isn't. He's not sorry for what he did. She warns that they shouldn't obviously be seen together, especially right now. Basically, Pete is looking out. His new house, really, is close to where Jesse lives. It's kind of like across the block. But nonetheless, Pete watches Rick leave. Daryl and Aaron now still trapped in the car. They discuss their options, basically. Daryl pulls out a cigarette. Daryl offers to draw the walkers off so Aaron can escape. Aaron basically insists that they fight together. And just as they're about to go out, they're counting down 3, 2, 1. And all of a sudden, someone starts killing the walkers outside the car. Starts tripping them up. Starts smashing their heads in with a stick. I don't know if you can guess where this is going, guys, but it's Morgan. That's right. So they get out of the car. Morgan, together, the three men slaughter the walkers and basically flee outside the fence to safety. So Daryl basically now asks Morgan why they helped him. And Morgan basically says, because all life is precious, Daryl. Obviously, he didn't know his name, but they literally just introduced himself. I just kind of skipped over that part, didn't think it was important. But nonetheless, Morgan says, because all life is precious, Daryl. And Aaron basically says, well, you're in luck. We have a sanctuary, sort of. We have a place not too far from here. And he basically offers to bring Morgan to Alexandria. Morgan then declines and says, I am going somewhere. I can't stay with you guys. I am going somewhere. I'm on the road. And he basically takes out a map. He says that, I'm lost. Could you help me out? Do you know where I am? He takes out a map for directions, and Daryl recognizes the map as the one that Abraham left for Rick at Gabriel's church. That's right, guys. On the map, it literally said, I'm sorry for being an asshole. Come to Washington. The world is going to need Rick Grimes. And that's when everything comes together. Daryl obviously recognizes that Morgan knows Rick. Daryl knows Rick. So now they're all hitting in the same place. Isn't that convenient? Small world, huh? It really is. Well, especially now. Obviously, zombie apocalypse pretty much wiped out everybody. But that's insane. Just to know that Morgan just saved their asses. They offered him to go to Alexandria. He said no until he found out, because Morgan was ultimately hitting to where Rick was hitting. He was hitting to where Rick was going, where Rick wanted to go. And he wanted to be with Rick. He wanted to reunite with them, in a way. Rick is probably the only one that he has left in the world that he still sort of knows. Really, that's just it. And yeah, he's hitting to Rick, and now they're all hitting in the same place. It's very, very cool. So Gabriel now wanders through the woods and offers himself up to a walker. He basically says, I'm ready. Now, at this point, I thought he was ready to sort of kill himself, just let the walker take him, in a way, obviously, for doing the bad things that he's done, obviously locking the people out of his church, letting them die on the outside. But I'm not so sure if that was his intention all along. I think his original intention, in my opinion, wasn't to die. I think he was ready to kill, to have his first kill, maybe. It could be that he was willing to die, and then the last second he realized that he obviously wasn't, and then he had to fight. That could be. But in my opinion, I think he went out there to see how strong he could be. I really do. He went out there, he said, take me. The walker got really close. He grabbed the walker by a noose that was already around his head. Maybe the walker obviously tried to kill himself or something like that. And he just pulled the noose. The walker's head fell off. He smashed the walker's head in with a rock. And then the person that the walker was obviously chowing down on in the middle of the street, he put him out of his misery as well. And then, he would stop being a pussy for like a minute and then started again, because then he laid on the ground and started crying. Ugh. Gabriel. You're such a little bitch. You really, really are. Nonetheless, now, that's what happens there. Gabriel breaks down in tears. Abraham now brings flowers to Tara's room and runs into Eugene, who's actually who he's actually been avoiding, obviously, for punching him in the face. Eugene obviously lied to Abraham about going to Washington to save the world. It's been a really awkward situation for them. It really has. And they kind of get it all squared away right in this scene. You know, they really do. So Eugene basically apologizes to Abraham for lying about DC, and Abraham in turn apologizes for attacking Eugene and nearly killing him. Eugene basically says, you know, that's not even necessary to apologize for that, and Abraham basically insists that it is. Back at the front gate now, Spencer, the guy on guard, he opens the gate to let Gabriel back inside. In a rush to attend the meeting to whether or not Rick is going to be exiled or not, in a rush, he basically asks Gabriel to shut the gate behind him. Gabriel, in a daze, after killing those walkers and after sobbing on the ground, he says yes, and he sort of closes the gate. You know, he sort of does, but he doesn't latch it. He shuts the gate behind him, he doesn't latch it, and the gate just bounces back open, slightly ajar. Now, in the woods, back in the woods, obviously Glenn got shot by Nicholas. Nicholas is still kind of looking around for him. Glenn ambushes Nicholas in the woods, kind of spears him on the ground. Nicholas gets the upper hand momentarily, and, you know, he kind of gets on top of Glenn. He's putting his finger in his bullet wound. Obviously, very, very painful. Walkers are actually coming up behind them. Nicholas gets the hell out of dodge. The walkers are on top of Glenn, and scene cut. We really don't know what happened there until later on in the episode. Michonne now stops by Rick's room to summon him to the meeting. He confesses that Carol and Daryl and he actually all took guns from the armory and lied to her because they were afraid she would disapprove. Michonne basically assures him that she's still on his side. You know, she's just saying, you know, the reason I hit you over the head was not for them. You know, it's not because I'm taking their side. I didn't do it for them. I did it for you. You know, because you were going too far with it. But nonetheless, she's insulted in a way that he didn't include her in his plan. Obviously, they've grown very, very close, and he needs to trust her. You know, he really does. He needs to trust her more, and that's why she was kind of insulted, really. So, yeah, after Michonne leaves, Rick is looking out the window. He sees the wide open gate that Gabriel obviously left open, and he grabs his jacket and he runs to close it. Spotting now a trail of walker blood, he sprints down the street on high alert. So he closes the gate and he latches it like Gabriel was supposed to do, but doesn't. Meanwhile, Sasha visits the church and asks Gabriel for help, and he says no. Deanna is now beginning the meeting. Michonne, Carol, Abraham, Rick, and Michonne, Carol, Abraham, and Maggie all defend Rick, basically saying Rick just wants his family to live. He wants all of you to live. You want to be a part of this family. This family on the outside has survived about 2 years in this apocalypse. And in order to keep surviving, you need to become a part of this family. That's basically what she's saying. That's what Michonne says. Deanna now reveals that Gabriel warned her about Rick's group and then basically said, you know, just not 24 hours later, Rick showed the first sign of them being dangerous. Jesse now and Maggie point out that Gabriel isn't even present to back up her story. Deanna counters that Rick isn't there either. Well, he's kind of got a reason not to be there. And that's because he's fighting off walkers. So yeah. Maggie leaves the meeting basically angry. Meanwhile, Rick tracks down the walkers that infiltrated the community and kills them single-handedly. He takes down one with a knife. He kind of loses his knife. He had a gun, obviously. The last one got on top of Rick. And basically, you know, was attacking Rick. He puts the gun up through his throat. He doesn't pull the trigger. He puts it up through his throat and into his skull, and then pulls the trigger. So it also acts as a suppressor, you know, so nobody else can hear the gunshot. Because if somebody from the meeting heard the gunshot, in all honesty, it would be hell. It really would. So he shoved the gun up through the walker's chin and jaw, so far that it created a suppressor for the bullet sound. And anyways, yeah. So he takes down the walker single-handedly. It was very, very cool to see. The men now who attacked Morgan, which is the wolves, arrive at the food warehouse with a captive, which was the man in the red poncho. He basically says, you know, we have to reset the trap, and then the man in the red poncho is now dead because they brought him to this gate and they slit his throat. I didn't really get the point of that. I guess it was just to make a new walker and to put him inside of the gate, obviously, because on the outside of everybody, not just the walkers in the food trucks, but the walkers on the outside of the food trucks, you know, the ones that Daryl and Aaron actually took out by themselves before going in there in the first place, obviously are all now dead. So they need to start replenishing walkers, if you will. Very, very psycho-ish. So the guy in the red poncho gets his throat slashed, gets thrown inside there. Using a remote control now, they activate loud music and disco lights inside the shipping trucks. Obviously, that's a way of resetting the traps. They get all the walkers back inside there by distracting them and, you know, luring them basically back inside with the music, loud-ass music. So, Nicholas is walking through the woods, and Glenn appears out of nowhere and ambushes Nicholas again and holds him at gunpoint. He's on top of Nicholas this time. He has a gun, and he's pointing it at his head. He basically blames Nicholas for Noah's death. Nicholas basically tearfully admits that he was scared and he doesn't belong in the outside world. And Glenn lowers his gun. You know, he's forgiving. He is. And they kind of walk each other back to the community. You know, literally, Nicholas shot Glenn. You know, he left him to the walkers for dead, and Glenn is still trying to help him. He's still trying to save his life. That's it. That really is. And now Sasha is telling Gabriel that she wants to die. Gabriel basically says, you know, why wouldn't you? You don't deserve to be here. Enraged now, she pushes him to the ground and points a rifle at his head. Maggie walks in on them and convinces Sasha to lower her rifle. Gabriel basically tells Maggie that you should have let her, weeping over his congregation and the fact that he let all the people on the outside of the church die when he closed the doors. Gabriel now is realizing, you know, they all died because of me, and Maggie takes Gabriel's hand. So I think Gabriel's turning over a new leaf here, not being a little bitch anymore, not blaming all of his problems on Rick's group and everything like that. You know, obviously Rick and his group have done some horrible things, but now he's coming to terms with the things he's done that's horrible. So he can't just say that, you know, I'm innocent, you're not, blah, 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 blah. So Rick now finally arrives at the meeting and carrying a walker. He tosses the walker corpse on the ground, and he basically announces that the gate was ajar and warns that the living and the dead will always find a way in. You know, he basically says, no matter what, we have to protect this community. That's what we have to do. And he looks to Deanna. You know, he says that the living and the dead will always find a way in, no matter what, but we'll kill them. And Rick vows, and he says, we'll survive, I'll show you how. He looks to Deanna, he says, you have to be ready. You know, you have to be ready. You're not ready yet, but you have to be right now. And while this speech is all going on, he's doing one of his great Rick speeches again. Very, very cool. I love his speeches. They're absolutely amazing. Kind of just telling them all, you know, what has to be done and when it has to be done, saying that you're not ready, you have to be. Glenn is helping Nicholas hobble back onto the compound, while Gabriel leads a prayer with Maggie and Sasha in the infirmary. Tara is finally waking up next to good old, what's her name? I don't remember her name. Yep, don't remember her name. The girl with Abraham. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank right now, but nonetheless, Tara finally wakes up. The wolves now shut the doors to the shipping trucks, resetting the trap. The W-Man, who actually Morgan encountered earlier, finds Aaron's backpack nearby and looks through the photos of Alexandria. Obviously, we know that Aaron carries photos of Alexandria to show to people that he's recruiting to the community what it kind of looks like and what everybody there looks like and everything like that. What the houses are, what the community looks like, what the walls look like. And he finds those photos and he's looking through them. He pauses on a snapshot of Rick and Carl. Now, back to the meeting, an enraged and drunken Pete barges in on the community meeting, wielding Michonne's sword, wielding her katana. He stumbles in. He basically says, "You're not one of us." He's screaming at the top of his lungs at Rick. He's basically saying, "You're not one of us. You don't belong here." Reg, which is Deanna's husband, intervenes, and Pete pushes him back, and he accidentally slices open his neck. He just slit Reg's throat. He really just did. That's it. Deanna's husband. And Deanna is obviously crying. She holds Reg as he's dying on the ground. And Abraham is actually holding Pete now on the ground, obviously holding him in like sort of an armbar position and keeping his hand on his head, just, keeping him under control. Deanna now looks up at Rick and basically says, "Rick, do it." Rick immediately, literally as she says "do it," it's like a command. Really, it was that simple. It was like a command, and he just followed orders to the T. She said, "Rick, do it," and he turns and shoots Pete dead. Just shoots him right in the head. Pete is now dead, and he does that just as Daryl and Aaron arrive with Morgan. Morgan basically says, "Rick," and Rick looks up, and they're looking at each other in shock, basically. Not just at the fact that Rick just executed him, they're looking in shock of the fact that, holy shit, you're standing right in front of me. What the hell? Basically, and that's where the episode ends. That's where Season 5 ends. That's the Season 5 finale right there, guys. It was still so insane. We didn't lose any main characters, guys. We didn't. I thought that we were going to. I thought we were going to lose at least one, but we didn't. Everybody made it through Season 5 finale. They all did, except for fucking Pete, which I'm completely glad. He bit the dust, but nonetheless, there you go. Rick turns, shoots, Pete dead. Aaron and Daryl, obviously, like I said, arrive with Morgan, and Morgan just says, "Rick." They're staring at each other in shock of the execution, and just of the fact that, they're finally standing in front of each other. Morgan is back. Morgan is with Rick now. Rick is sort of the complete opposite of Morgan at this point. Rick, he's more drastic. He knows how to survive. Morgan is more of a peaceful human being. Basically, saving Daryl's life, saving Aaron's life, saying that life is precious. Every single life is precious, Daryl. And at the start of the episode, those two men assaulted Morgan, and Morgan just didn't even kill them. He didn't have to kill him. He just knocked them out unconscious and put them in the back of the car. He didn't kill them at all. And he's more of a peaceful person, and Rick is just the complete opposite at this point. So credits roll, actually, and after the credits, there's another scene. Later that night, Michonne debates whether or not to put her katana back on the wall. Obviously, she cleans it off after Pete used it on Reg. Unfortunately, like I said, Reg is dead. Michonne debates whether or not to put her katana back on the wall. Resolved, basically, she returns it to her scabbard and straps it on her back. If you guys don't know what a scabbard is, that's kind of a sheath, but for katana. If you don't know what a sheath is, it's just a little holster to put a knife. So anyways, she returns it to her scabbard and straps her on her back. Back at now the food warehouse, the man in the red poncho shuffles about, now a walker. Like I said, they're replenishing walkers. That's what they're doing. Now, scrawled on a nearby car is a message saying, "Wolves not far." You damn right they're not far. They're just around the corner. They're coming in the Season 6 premiere. That's what's going on. But that's pretty much it for now. Hopefully you guys did enjoy today's video. If you did, feel free to hit the video with a like, share it with your friends, subscribe if you haven't already. That is my season finale episode review video for The Walking Dead Season 5, Episode 16, entitled Conquer. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode as much as I did. I sure as hell loved every single second of it. Morgan is now back with Rick. What's going to happen? That was sort of our cliffhanger this time. Morgan and Rick obviously getting back together, and the fact that the wolves are not far. So yeah, what do you guys think about the episode? Leave that in the comment section below. And we're not too far off The Walking Dead, guys. We really aren't. You know, it's usually about 7 months. You know, The Walking Dead TV show comes back in October, but I have some very, very good news, guys. This summer, The Walking Dead's coming back early. I'm not talking about The Walking Dead, this TV show that we're used to. I'm talking about the companion series that they're launching. And I'm going to be doing an episode review and episode predictions for that as well. This TV show is called Fear the Walking Dead, and I'm very, very excited to see it. It's based on all new characters. It's also based in Los Angeles. I'm pretty sure it's based on the point of the outbreak, which I'm very, very excited to see. We maybe are going to get to see literally what kind of caused all this mess. That's pretty much, I think, what we're going to get to see. So anyways, moving on from that, we're not going to have to wait too long until I return to my Walking Dead videos. But it'll be a while. It really will. I'll have to find some more content until the summer. So hopefully you guys did enjoy today's episode review video of The Walking Dead Season 5, Episode 16, the season finale, entitled Conquer. If you did, like I said, feel free to hit the video with a like. Feel free to hit the video with a like, share it with friends. Like I said, tell me in the comment section below what you guys thought of the episode, what you guys think of the new companion series. Are you guys going to be watching it? Just let me know, and subscribe if you haven't already. Alright guys, bye.